Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. McMullen, McDonald, and very contemplative, in deep thought.
I think he's frozen. That's why.
One Jeff Kerr. Oh, you think he's frozen?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, I thought he was just like contemplating the very tricky.
He is contemplating. That is a deep contemplation.
Oh my! Oh, he can hear us.
He can hear us.
Like he can hear us.
Oh, I can hear you, boy.
Oh,
I can hear you.
All right. Well, we'll try to move on. That's a nice. You might want to use that as your new X profile shots. Contemplative, Jeff Kerr.
If you get a logo up on top of the chrome dome there, you can make some money. Yeah, a little.
Hey, Sander, try to bring him down and bring him back up and see if that fixes the freeze thing.
Yeah, that's. You know what? That should probably be my bowling. That's my bowling pose too when I'm thinking way too much. And yeah, that's how.
Do you stare down at your shoes and?
All right, we're gonna see that fixed it. Yeah, that fixed it.
There we go.
Now we have moving Jeff Kerr. That's always exciting. All right, legal negotiation, illegal tampering. We'll get to that in a second. Important news. What'd you bowl? How many 300s?
I had 302 games in one of the tournaments. Does that count?
Sure, it does for me.
Yeah, my percentages, I'm guessing.
This is how my Saturday went, by the way. This is you bowl 6 games and it's 7 in the morning. Wow. 181, 105, 200.
105.
Yeah, 200.
I would have gave up at that point. Yeah, what are you going to put up the? What are you going to put up the bumper lanes for you at 105?
I had a 7-bagger. That's what all my buddies told me. I had seven in a row, 7 opens.
Yikes! Ouch! So other than that, how was Vegas?
Awesome. Hey, I did win an award for my bowling. So
what award would that be with a 105?
Well, the rest of the tournament was really good. It was just one game. So, okay. But if I would have, let's put it this way: Jalen Hurts had a bad second quarter. That's how I look at it.
We'll buy that. Well, we're glad you had a good time. Eagle fans not having a good time this morning because after losing Jason Kelce last Monday, we have to talk about Fletcher Cox deciding his career is over and done with in the National Football League. 2 all-time great Philadelphia Eagles. And we said this about Jason last week. Not only they're going to list him on the field and what he could still do, still playing at a high level. I called Fletcher Cox the most consistent player on the Eagle defense all year last year, but also the leader aspect of these two teams. How do you even begin to think about replacing that? Or are you overstating? We put too much emphasis on it. Fletcher was a little bit more understated than Jason Kelce, but those were the 2 leading guys in that locker room as far as veteran go and championship insight and the like. How big a hole is that leaving in the Eagles on the leadership side?
To me, it's massive. You know, you're losing pretty much your emotional vocal leader on the offense, sans Jalen Hurts. Now, they're lucky they have Jalen Hurts on the offense to kind of take that reign, but defense, you go to BG, other than him, who are you going to? You going to really rely on I don't even know. To be honest, who can fill that void? I guess if Jordan Davis had a better 2 years than he's had, I would probably turn to him. Maybe him and Jalen Carr could take that mail from Fletcher Cox, but I don't think they're ready to do that yet. I with this defense and everything that's going to change on here, who do you go to? Slay? Are we even sure he's going to be back at this point?
Well, he'll be back for this year, but that's short term, and he is a team captain, so he'll continue to be a team captain, I would imagine. But I mean, Nakobe Dean, they've talked about his leadership, and they expect him to step up. But I mean, I don't know how I can count on that. From maybe he's a great leader. He is a great leader. The people tend to follow him. He learned that at Georgia for a young person, but can he count on him to be on the field? I mean, let's be honest. So, yeah, there's a void, and we'll see what they do when it comes to free agency and defensive players, because that's going to be a big part of it. We were talking about Bryce Huff. Jody gave you a quick scouting report if you heard. I mean, he does seem to be a one-trick pony.
Yeah, he is.
Is that an $18 million player or somewhere in that range?
I mean, didn't we ask this question with Hassan Reddick 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, we did. Similar.
And the impact. I mean, this is what every time I think of Bryce Huff, I think the guy's had a 22% pressure rate. That's top 5 in the league. That's really good. So the Eagles are seeing something in him that maybe the detractors aren't seeing. I mean, look, they got to change something up on this defense. By the way, I was bowling Saturday morning when that news came out, and I'm just like, oh, not surprised considering you probably could get more for Josh Sweat than you can for Hassan Reddick at this point. And
yeah, hold on. Time out, Philadelphia. You're the second person to say that to me this weekend. Dave Zingaro said the same thing with me on WIP on Sunday. You actually think they get more for Sweat than Hassan Reddick off the season that Sweat had?
Yep, younger, cheaper, more upside.
Yeah. I still think Hassan. I've heard you probably get a 3 for Sweat. Maybe you get a 3 and a 5 for Reddick. I still think you get a little bit more for Reddick. But yeah, I understand if Sweat. It wouldn't shock me if you get more for Sweat because of what Jeff said. He's younger, he's more cost effective, but he's going to be expensive too, just not as expensive as Hassan Reddick. So I don't think it's going to be a huge difference either way. But I think
but
it's
hold on.
right in the
If
same
I'm
ballpark.
Josh Sweat and they're in the exact same position, right? Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat last year, their contract looking to negotiate going forward. I'm Josh Sweat. I walk into the Green Bay Packer, pick whatever team he decides he gets dealt to. Jeff Kerr and Dave Zingaro said, I demand more in trade. I demand more in salary too. Why would Josh Sweat take less than Hassan Reddick? If he's a better player and you get more in a deal for him, why wouldn't he get more money from the
Well,
team
I
he's
don't
going
think
to?
you're getting more in a deal if you get more in a deal because he's a better player. You're getting more because of the other things, the youth, the less expensive part of it.
I'm younger. Pay me more than Hassan Reddick.
Well,
They
that's
get
not,
paid.
yeah, that's not the only reason people get paid. It's just a big reason. People are more willing to take a chance on a younger player. Although Josh has a significant injury history as well, so that can complicate. Although he seems to be past it, the Eagles have always had a pitch count until this year, really, and the pitch count he wasn't as good without the pitch count. I think that's fair to say. He kind of wavered down the stretch, as did everybody, though. Everybody on this defense, except for maybe Fletch.
Yeah. The guy who was good late in the season isn't here anymore. He retired.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to make of that. It's almost you got to throw that last 7 games out if you're trying to evaluate the defensive players individually. Obviously, as a whole, the unit was a disgrace. I mean, let's be honest. But boy, Michael Lombardi is out there today making some Eagles waves. For those who don't know, Mike, famous for a bunch of things.
Doug Pearson, notwithstanding.
Probably numero uno.
Shall remain nameless at that point, but you guys can bring it up. Okay. So he first said, hey, the Eagles really are interested in Saquon. So we got the Saquon stuff. Now he's talking about Justin Fields. He says he can't find a team with interest in Justin Fields. That's pretty real. That seems to be Chicago's finding. They're not going to get much for Justin Fields. There's a good chance he'll be a backup or in a quarterback competition. The Eagles make sense backing up Jalen Hurts. Any thoughts? Is Mike just losing his mind this morning?
You know what? I'm going to start with the Saquon stuff. I heard the Saquon interest is more on the Saquon end than the Eagles end.
Yeah, same here.
Just because of the cop play thing and all that stuff. Like
he wants to be with Penn State enablers like Jeff Kerr. I think he wants that.
For interview purposes, I'm a little selfish there.
You and Mosher are going to get Saquon here.
Oh, probably. I mean, I would love for that to happen as personally, but that's more on his end than the Eagles' end. But no, Justin Fields a backup Jalen. Come on, they have a backup quarterback right now.
Well, I don't know if that's the case.
Well,
I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on Tanner McKee as the backup quarterback.
we'll see how things go this offseason. I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing Marcus Mariota back either. I don't know if that's going to
I don't think Marcus wants to come back. Marcus is a West Coast guy, man. He wants to be as close as to
I thought
Hawaii.
he liked it here this year, though, from a couple
I don't think he
conversations
disliked it, but I don't think he wanted to be in Atlanta. I certainly don't.
Well, we know he didn't want to be in
Yeah,
Atlanta,
you
John.
saw it on Netflix and quarterback. He didn't want to be here. He wants to be on the West Coast. Now, he doesn't have a lot of options. That's why he was here last year. But yeah, they could do worse than bringing back Marcus Mariota. I thought he was fine as a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Eagles get better. To the level of Justin Fields, I don't think so. But I am going to probably regret this, but I'll defend Michael Lombardi, at least in part here. The Eagles put a value on backup quarterback above and beyond most NFL teams.
That's true.
They always have. They
wrong.
always will. They overpaid Marcus Mariota last year. And I like the Mariota signing. I thought he was going to be a fit with the scheme and had the skill set to do the things that I thought the Eagle offense was going to do. $5 million? I don't think so. I like the deal that the Jaguars made yesterday. I'd rather have a Mac Jones for $2.7 million than Marcus Mariota for $5 million, because every million counts.
I agree with that. I'm surprised they weren't able to get a little bit more from Mac Jones. A little bit more, not a lot. But I'm surprised one of these quarterback desperate teams didn't say, all right, I'll take a look at that guy in a competition, maybe draft a young quarterback and have him in there. Because he was pretty good early in his career. Maybe
his
something
rookie year is dynamite.
When he actually had an offensive coordinator that tailored to his skill set.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised by that. I like that deal for Jacksonville. I do. I think Mac Jones, could be rescued in the right situation.
Jeff Kerr,
I thought that deal though was good for Jacksonville. Before you go, Jeff, Trevor Lawrence has been battling injuries a lot the last couple of years. If he needs, if it's pressed for him to miss a game, he could start. Mac Jones could start a game or two and revive everything.
Agreed. And sorry, CJ Beathard, I'm just not a big fan. So if you can get Mac Jones over a CJ Beathard, you go ahead and do it if the cost is only a 6. Here's my question for you about Saquon Barkley, Mr. Penn State. What is it about, I'll say mostly fans, there are some foolish media people that do the same thing, but they feel the need. I know it's our society in general in life that people feel the need to get to one of the two opposite ends of anything. You have to be either way left or way right. You can't find a good gray area in the middle. The Saquon Barkley comparison to McCaffrey, they're basically the same thing. That Saquon could do what McCaffrey did for the 49ers. No. Or Saquon stinks. Saquon's done nothing. Where is Saquon taking the Giants? Who could do anything with the Giants?
I didn't realize that was Saquon's. I didn't realize that was Saquon's fault that the Giants have perpetually had the worst offensive line in football since he's been there.
And Daniel Jones Tommy DeVito.
DeVito.
Come on. Do we not see there's a middle ground here? People feel the need to go to this will put the Eagles over the top and win another Super Bowl, or this guy is god-awful terrible. Why can't we just acknowledge he's one of the best running backs in football? He would upgrade the Eagles next year. To me, it all comes down to money. If they can make the money work, which I don't think they will or can. But why can't people just say, yeah, it'd be a good, let's wait and see what the dollars are, and then say whether it's a good or bad move to go after a guy like Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, as someone who's pretty much watched every snap of Saquon Barkley's career, and keep in mind, this is watching a lot of Giants football over the last 5 years.
I apologize for that.
It's brutal. So this is my honest evaluation of Saquon Barkley. He's not the player nowhere near the player he was when he was drafted, but he's still a really good football player. I don't think he has that game-changing breakaway speed anymore, and this is when I made that evaluation. Late in the playoff game against the Eagles 2 years ago, he broke a run, and I thought in my head, he's gone, and he got caught. And I'm like, okay, that does not happen. That is not Saquon Barkley. So he's not that guy anymore, but he's still a guy that can hit the A gap hard, can hit the B gap hard, gets to the second level, can still catch the ball out of the backfield. If the Eagles use him right, keep in mind, the Eagles use him right, they immediately improve at running back.
Now, we have dueling reports. I told you about Mike Lombardi. Jordan Ronan, who covers the Giants for ESPN, said he's still looking to get $10 million.
I kind of feel Jordan's report is more spot. That's why I don't think he's gonna be with the Eagles. I think it's push comes to shove. I could see Texans, Chargers.
Yeah, I was thinking Chargers because that'll be the one team that wants to build around the running game. Harbaugh, a little old school. That makes sense to me. The Texans, maybe they think
time out. Let me comment on the Chargers. You saw the reports on the Chargers this weekend, right? They're willing to trade Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
They're willing to trade Khalil Mack. They're willing to trade both of their star wide receivers. If that doesn't smack of rebuild, I don't know what does. Why would you pay a running back $10 million if you're
don't we do by that logic? Don't we think the Eagles are rebuilding?
No, not. Are
Well,
the Eagles putting AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the market too?
It depends on which content creator you talk to.
Well, yeah. Well, no, the Eagles are not. But remember, the Eagles receivers are younger. So with the edge rushers, I mean, Khalil Mack is a great player, great. But that's the way this league works. And a lot of times I disagree with it. He's older. And they're like, oh, we got to get out of this.
And we're in salary cap hell, so we got to get out of it.
Now, Bosa surprised me a little bit.
Salary cap hell, but they're going to give $10 million to a back. That's my point. Thank you for making it for me, Jeff Kerr.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, look, I don't think a running back at $10 million is fit for anybody. So if you want to look at any running back, with the exception of Christian McCaffrey, is a fit for anybody. Literally.
Josh Jacobs was a disaster for the Raiders last year. Yeah. He made 12.6, I think he ended up making.
10 and change. Well, because he got incentive. You're right.
He got incentive. So,
what's the number if Saquon wants to give the Penn State discount to hang out with Jeff Kerr and Jeff Mosher? What's the number the Eagles will go to? 5, 7? Would they dare go to 7?
I think 7. I think 7's healthy.
Now, all right, and then let's say 7. Let's say he's willing to take $7 million. Howie Roseman is willing to go against the grain of everything he's believed over the past number of years. And Saquon Barkley is a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Still won football, right? Does that create more of a problem for Kellen Moore? Because you still have A.J. Brown, you still have Devontae Smith, you still have Dallas Goedert. You got to you got this big name back who you got to get involved.
You know what I'd be curious with the dynamic of Saquon Barkley here, and this is off-field stuff. How many of these guys is he going to tell to shut up? Because Saquon, he was a leader at Penn State, and stuff don't fly when Saquon Barkley's around. So I'm curious to see how
You're talking about teammates or fans?
Teammates.
Oh, that'll be
Saquon leads by example when he's quiet. So I'm curious to see how that meshes.
I think it'll be okay.
I think it'll be okay, but you got a veteran. You got someone in there who's going to be like, hey, man, maybe you're better off,
Who's that guy? Who's that Eagle who's going to, AJ? Slay? Who's going to say, shut up, Saquon?
There's a couple of them.
All right, who, before we talk about potential locker room discord, let's get them in the building first.
Yeah, exactly. He's not even in the building yet. Let's not even go to that.
Who would you rather have, Saquon at $7 million or DeAndre Swift at $4 billion?
Yeah, see, I think if you use DeAndre Swift right, that would be nice. But I didn't like DeAndre Swift here last year.
You were not a big DeAndre.
I was not a big fan of him. Yeah. I do not like his running style. I didn't think he provided. Honestly, if DeAndre Swift was from LA instead of Philly, I think more people would feel the same way.
No, I like the player. Didn't matter that he was from Philadelphia. I still like the player. And
I
to
wish
answer
they
your
would have
question,
used him
John, I'd
better.
probably
I
take
will.
Smith.
I just, this is what I was told. There's a reason why he was traded from the Detroit Lions. And it wasn't, it was on field stuff. They just weren't that enamored. And they got better when they got rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, Detroit did a lot of good things. Detroit, I mean, Brad Holmes was, spiking the football when his draft pick, because everybody was making fun of Brad Holmes when he drafted a running back so early, and he drafted an all-ball linebacker so early. And all of a sudden, they're a really good team, had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And he was spiking the football, executive of the year, yada, yada, yada. Jahmyr Gibbs looks like he's going to be a typical. Remember, they also moved on from Williams, who had all the touchdowns. How many touchdowns did he have?
He had 18.
20,
He had 18
almost
touchdowns.
20.
And he didn't play much with the Saints. He couldn't get on the field.
And I'm like, they bring in David Montgomery, who was sort of like, with the Bears. He's a good move to change guy, but was never that explosive. And all of a sudden, they're better with
don't you think that they had
paper.
Don't you think they had the Eagles' philosophy in anybody can run behind our offensive line?
Probably, yeah. Their offensive line is great, and they just re-signed, by the way, Graham Glasgow. So that probably means
there went my right guard competition for. Tyler.
Well, Jonah Jackson is probably going to be out there. They're probably not going to sign both. So that means who's the better?
And Graham was always the cheaper of the two.
Yeah, much cheaper. Well, that's part of the problem. Jonah Jackson potentially going to be out there. Are the Eagles going to go try and get a right guard? Because Cam's got to move inside now. You have Tyler Steen. Is that going to be a position they make a move on early in free agency? I like John Runyon for the Eagles.
I do too. That's one of the guys I was going to mention. Maybe they bring John Runyon in there. He can play tackle. He can play guard. He can play left side, play the right side. He's kind of like a younger version of Elton Jenkins in a sense. So I wouldn't mind them shelling some money out on guard if they do that. Because, John, you and I saw it last year. I don't think they thought Tyler's team was anywhere near ready to contribute.
Oh, certainly not. They gave him one chance, and they were like, all right, Tyler, go sit down. We can.
Hey, you know what? Was it you, John, that said try to find the next Brandon Brooks? Maybe they should do that this free agency.
Well,
easier said than done.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Brooks they're not a diamond.
I meant it could be at any position, but just that 25, 26-year-old guy coming off his first contract. He was a good player, but nobody thinks is a great player. And maybe he's got more ceiling. And that I was comparing him to Huff. Maybe he's got more. That's the whole trick to this. Get that young guy who's about to explode, and it's not like you can do it every year. It's not easy, but that's the goal.
Howie had a couple year stretch there where he did that. Brandon Brooks, Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod, just guys like that, and ended up winning. Remember when the Eagles signed Malcolm Jenkins? Everybody's like,
who was the safety that year?
Jarius Byrd.
Jarius Byrd.
And I'm like, this guy stinks. I didn't see it.
Yeah. Jarius Byrd. Oh, Eagles fans were incensed when they lost out on Jarius Byrd.
Or the whole TJ Ward Oregon thing. Oh, he played for Oregon under Chip. He'll want to come here.
And here comes Malcolm, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Ended up being one of the better Eagles in franchise history.
The reason why I think you could be right about the guard position via free agency, John, is Sua Opeta is a free agent too. If they still had Sua under contract and that was a safety net or maybe he's that guy who takes the mega step up and surprises everybody, you got to make a decision on Sua. And if there's another team that likes him and is willing to give him decent money, the Eagles would probably be looked to get him back on the cheap. We haven't even mentioned this yet. They didn't tender Jack Stoll a contract, so he's now an unrestricted free agent. The Eagles every once in a while want to get a guy back on what they consider the cheap because he's been here and he likes it here and he wants to stay here. And there are guys that when they hit that free agent mark go, no, I'm going to get paid. Specifically an undrafted guy like Jack Stoll. If somebody's going to give him an extra $50,000, $100,000, you're going to take it. You don't necessarily get a bargain. And I think Opeta is one of those guys. And I think they may end up missing Opeta because he was a nice plug-in guy. Like you said, they gave Steen a chance. They got to look at him. And, let's get Suapeta back in.
Yeah. I think give him a guy like Sua if he doesn't come back. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think there's still a chance he'll be back. Not going to break the bank anywhere, so might be a situation. Miami tried to sign him off the practice squad a couple of years ago, and the Eagles elevated him, and he wanted to stay. So maybe he wants to work with Jeff Stoutland. Maybe that helps him. Helps the Eagles.
That's two guys, by the way, we kind of that were poached off practice squad on this team that wanted to stay, by the way.
Oh, there's a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. But two I know of.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Since you teased it, Jeff. Who's the other one?
Britton Covey.
Yeah, Britton.
Oh, Covey, right.
There were two teams trying to sign Britton.
Yeah.
So how he can't do is keep that in mind this summer, because he would always use Britton as we'll just cut him, do the roster manipulation, bring him back. He probably can't do that anymore.
All right, let me ask each of you guys this question. First, Sue will follow up, and then I'll add to it. Which of the two former Eagle coordinators makes the bigger play for Suapeta? Will it be Indianapolis or will it be Arizona? Do you think it's the former OC or their former DC? They both have picked and choose Eagle guys to pursue since they walked out the door. I would lean toward more the offensive guy, but who knows? Maybe it's Gannon. If I'm correct in predicting he will land with one of those teams, not back here with the Eagles, which one is it most likely? Either one of you guys jump in there.
You want to take that one?
I think Indy's pretty well stocked on the off, so I would go Arizona. I think it's more about like Arizona. I think has bigger needs on the offensive line than Indianapolis,
and on the defensive line too.
Yeah,
they got to change a lot of things up on that defense. I would not be shocked if the Cardinals are in that mix for one of those Eagles pass rushers.
That's where I was going next. Where's Saquon Reddick going to land? The two choices I would put at the top of the list: Arizona and Indianapolis.
Yeah, then I'd go Arizona for.
Yeah, I would go Arizona. You know what? Maybe that's.
I don't know if Hassan wants to go back to Arizona. He's got some bad memories. Yeah.
Is it a bold prediction if you think Josh Sweat ends up as an Arizona Cardinal?
No, I don't think it's bold at all. I think JG would love to have both of them if he could figure that out.
I'm sure he would like that whole 2022 defense too. Got him a head coaching job.
Yeah, it did. Or yeah. Well, you got to give JG credit. I know that's tough to do for Eagles fans, but that's a pretty big dive off the table. Yeah, now they lost a bunch of players, but that was a pretty big dive off the table.
Going on
production wise,
just feeling the pulse of Arizona media, and I go on a lot of Cardinals radio shows. Nothing pleases that city more than the downfall of the Eagles last year. That's what
really,
yeah. They love because of what Eagles fans said about Gannon. That was their Super Bowl last year.
They're coming big time to defense of JG, huh? They
love JG.
I'm surprised because when I told you the story, because Jeff was out in Vegas and one of his Uber drivers was listening to the Birds 365. Thank you to the Uber driver. But when I was out in Phoenix for the the backup kicker game, the Cameron Dicker game. So it was that game. My Uber driver on the way back from the game was a big Birds 365 fan. And Arizona as a whole, I was stunned. Just Eagles fans all over the place.
There's a big Eagles bar out there, Desert Eagles Nest.
Yeah.
But
they are all up to the point, and I can't say who, but there was one employee of the Arizona Cardinals who came up and introduced himself and knew who I was, which stunned me. But he's an Eagles fan, and he took me off to the side, and I'm like, "What is this guy doing?"
It wasn't Steve Kime, was it? He grew up.
No, Steve was here, by the way. Steve was here. I thought the Eagles were going to hire Steve as a consultant. He was here at training camp.
Steve kind of faded out of football.
No, he was here last year a bunch of times, but he'll be back. He had Eagle socks on during the game. Like
Really?
he's got his.
That's a fireable fence. Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not saying who it was. I will never say who it was. But he had his Cardinals gear on, Cardinals polo shirt, and then he pulled up his pants, Eagle socks. Big Eagles fan.
I guess he could get away with it and say it's a Christmas outfit with red up top and green on the
There
bottom.
you go.
If they saw the logo, he could have actually paid for it with his job. All right, Jeff Kerr, we need a prediction out of you before you leave us today. The Philadelphia Eagles, it will be reported. They, of course, can't sign anybody till Wednesday. Those are the rules of the NFL. Nobody can.
Yeah, well, legal tampering started 2 weeks ago. I can't say.
And that's why. Let me just make this point and see if you agree with me on this. Any team whose general manager did not show up at the combine, that's a fireable offense as far as I'm concerned.
So Leslie,
just stay home. Leslie, I don't give a who you are. How are you not there when the biggest illegal tampering gathering is Indianapolis, with teams talking to agents day in, day out, hour in, hour out, and you're going to be home on your cell phone? That's just shame on any of those teams that did that, because we all agree that that's where the whole free agency thing really gets the ball rolling, is in Indianapolis. And if you're not there, you're out of the mix.
Yeah. Don't you guys think it's funny? All the crazy NFL news started last Monday. Like, it's just all this. Like, I kept trying to tell you, Jason Kelsey's going to make his decision probably week 4 free agency, and this guy's probably going to do this. This guy's going to do that.
Yeah, well, new league year. Yeah, everybody, as Andrew Brandt will tell you, deadline spur action. So that
is the best quote on X, by the way. Deadline spur action.
Yeah, he's not the person to say it, but
no, but he's the most notable.
Yeah.
All right, so Jeff Kerr, if the Eagles are going to agree, and that's all they can be, can't be signed, can't be a done deal, what position do you think will be today's, at some point, announcement? Sources say Eagles have agreed to a contract with. What position that player going to be?
Safety.
Really?
Yeah. So, you're right. I agree with you. I think Hop is number one to look at, but then safety. And I think they want to get that splash and get an edge rusher and a safety. I hear a lot of Xavier McKinney, which is understandable. Very good player. Well, I think he's going to be very expensive. Cameron Curl is my guy. A little bit less expensive. You think that could be the stealth Howie move?
There's another guy I kind of like too. I think Howie could. And
Jordan Fuller?
Geno Stone.
All right, Geno.
But I would love Cam Curl here. He was a great player. That defense was worse than the Eagles last year, but he was good.
I think Jordan Fuller is a perfect fit for this defense, his style, the Fangio defense. But I'm not sure he's good enough. So
could you see them go a little outside the box here and bring in the Jordan Brooks? He might be too expensive too.
Yeah, linebacker's going to be interesting because, man, if they didn't get beaten over the head last year, they're never going to change their philosophy on linebacker. And I'm not talking about Patrick Queen or somebody of that nature where you got to spend real money, but you got to pony up $6-7 million.
What bothers me about them is, we've had all this success, without focusing on it, but yet the year you won the Super Bowl, and I know Jordan Hicks is hurt, but your starting linebacker duo going into that year was Jordan Hicks and Michael Kendricks, and they were pretty damn good.
And then you had Nigel too.
Nigel Brown. So you were pretty stacked at that position that
year. Yeah. And there's a bunch of linebackers out there. There's I think Frankie Louvu will be too expensive. So then you start to go down. Probably Wagner's, he's too old. I don't think
he's still good, but he's too old.
Yeah. Jerome Baker is out there, who played with Vic in Miami. That could be positive or negative.
I wouldn't touch Devin White.
No, either would I. Jody knows. I mean, that guy had one run in the playoffs. I've never seen anything like it. He was the best linebacker in football in the playoffs
for 2 months.
He's been complete garbage.
I'm pretty sure he was benched last year, if I'm not.
He was benched. He's been benched a couple times. It's the weirdest thing. You saw his upside, and it's just he's never done it.
By the way,
Again.
I gotta give the Bucks a ton of credit here because 2 weeks ago it looked like Mike Evans wasn't coming back, and I said, "Well, this whole offseason is dependent on Mike Evans coming back." They were able to get him, so I was like, "Okay, Baker's going to be back." They got Baker back. They're tagging Winfield. Those are the three guys they had to worry about keeping. Then I'm pretty sure Devontae David's going to be back. So,
all right, last one from me, Jeff Kerr, at Jeff Kerr CBS. Make sure you follow Jeff. He's going to have all the free agency news as it happens. He and his cohorts. So I'm going to give you, since you want the line, I'm going to give you 4 names, and you give me the best one that you want for the Philadelphia Eagles. Azeez Al-Shaair, former Tennessee linebacker who has a history with Bobby King, the new linebackers coach. Josie Jewell, Denver, who has a history with Bick. I mentioned Jerome Baker, history with Bick, which may be good or bad. A lot of Miami players didn't like it, so he might not want to come here, but we'll see. And then the outside the box guy, who I think is a pretty good player and probably won't be available, but Blake Cashman. I give you those 4 guys.
I would take Blake Cashman. Yeah, I was hoping you would mention the Blake Cashman.
All right, Jody.
They hated Vic going out the door in Miami thing, I think could be blatantly overstated. And I think it was more about defensive back than linebacker. So I'll say that Baker will be the most logical guy that they sign.
All right. I'll take any of the 4.
John, since I've been away for a week, there's no legs to the Justin Simmons thing, is there?
It doesn't. I think they want to get younger.
I mean, he'd be a nice player here.
Yeah, he's a very good player still, but he's going to be very expensive. Still, I think he's going to be up in the 14, 15 million range.
I really do think this offseason they're going to be looking for leaders.
He's a good player, man. He's the one veteran I would go, all right, you know he fits this defense.
Yep.
Yeah, he was good under, really good under Fangio.
He's the one veteran guy where I would pause and say, yeah, maybe that makes some sense. But it kind of depends where you think you are. Like, where's how we think the Eagles are? Are they a legitimate contender? Go get them. If not, if this is I'm going to rebuild this thing.
Which brings us back to the first question I asked.
I think they are. I still think they are a legitimate contender.
Then how are you trading Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat?
Because
if you think you are, you can't trade both of those guys. I'm sorry, you can't.
This is why, because 30th in yards, 30th in points allowed per possession, 31st in yards allowed per possession. I would get that whole defense in the room and say, no one is safe. No one.
Yeah, they were pissed off, and I reported this at SI.com. They were pissed off about the lack of discipline on the defensive line late in the season.
There was a lack of discipline on that entire unit.
Well, yeah, it looked like all 3 levels were on a different page, but I think there was more frustration because of the talent on the defensive line. Versus, they knew they were, they knew they had issues in the back 7 from a personnel perspective. So I think it was more disappointing for them the way the defensive line performed, and everybody was going off on their same page. And that's part of the problem with rushers, because they know sacks get them paid. You've seen it in the past. Jason Babin would be the most notable, who just like, I'm going to do what the fuck I want.
Especially
and I'm going to go get
when they were running the ball.
Yeah. And I'm going to go get sacks, and those guys get paid. So there was a little bit of that going on. And then I think inside the youth, I think they gave them a little bit of a pass, that those guys got to learn a little bit more. But yeah, I think that's part of it. More, it's not the biggest part, but I think that's part of it.
Eagles defensive line went backwards. 2 words: Matt Patricia. Enough said. As far as I'm concerned,
I think it was.
You're not looking for an explanation. I'm pointing at the ill-advised defensive coordinator.
Well, they already fired the coaches, so they fired Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, Tracy Rocker, but they kept Jeremiah Washburn.
But was Matt Patricia? he was on their 1-year contract, to my understanding.
Yes. I shouldn't say fired. Yes.
Right. He was not renewed.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not.
That might be the easiest decision the Eagles had to make all off season.
Opportunities to seek employment elsewhere.
And I still say for the Nick Sirianni haters, that's where you should have started. The move away from Sean Desai. To this day, I can't explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand they were bad, but that wasn't it. It was the personnel.
Yeah.
It was not all of the coach, but they blamed the coaches.
Yeah.
Very much so.
The way of the NFL. Yeah.
Jeff Kerr, we kept you very late. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. Know what kind of a busy day you have with all the rumorville that's going to be out there. Enjoy tracking them all down. We'll be checking out all your info on cbssports.com. Thanks, brother.
Yep, sounds great. I gotta get caught up here. I lost 4 hours of time at daylight savings and coming back from the
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, your body clock is all off.
It is. Trust me. In my mind, it's like 5 in the morning.
That's why.
All right. Good luck, Jeff.
Jeff Kerr here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. Coming up in hopefully just 10 minutes from now. Mike Quick's going to join us. I booked Mike last week before Fletcher Cox retired, and knew that the Eagles were going to put guys like Josh Sweat up for grabs. I think of still Mike as an offensive guy, but he does the Eagles game. He knows absolutely everything about the Eagles. Ian Merrill Reese on the Eagles radio call. Former superstar wide receiver for the Philadelphia, Mike Quick, going to join us coming up, hopefully in less than 12 minutes from now.